Hello, WiCyS community. Welcome to WiCyS Presents Woman in the Middle. I'm your host, Jackie McGuire, and for the next few weeks, we're going to do something just a little bit different. WiCyS had their national conference at the Gaylord Resort in National Harbor, Maryland a few weeks ago, and I was lucky enough to be on site and record a whole bunch of interviews with current and future cybersecurity leaders. The topics range from technical to professional to deeply personal, and I have to tell you the truth, it was exhausting recording multiple days of interviews, but I also had a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully you'll have just as much fun listening. We'll get back to our normally scheduled program in a few weeks, but in the meantime, please enjoy these interviews live from WiCyS 2026. Welcome back. We are live from WiCyS 2026. This is Jackie McGuire. I'm your host of Woman in the Middle, and I am here with Lynn Dohm from WiCyS. She's the executive director, and Will Markow. He is the CEO of FourOne Insights. Guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been an action-packed first day of WiCyS. I really enjoyed the breakfast we had this morning where you presented some of your research. So, Lynn, how has your first day been? I know you've been busy.
Oh, the first day has been fantastic. We had an incredible strategic partner dinner last night, engaged a lot of folks in that capacity, really kicked off WiCyS going strong. And then, of course, knocking it out of the park with our latest and greatest research. And that's what I'm most proud about being a nonprofit organization for as long as we've been, is that we're at a point now where we actually have the data and the impact on the workforce. So community building is so very important, but also we've launched all these over 100 different programming efforts. And because of those efforts, we know the impact it's making on people's lives, but also the impact that it's making on the workforce. So now we have this tremendous data set that we're able to give to employer partners and say, here is your return on investment. And we're super proud that we were able to partner with FourOne Insights and Will's team over there to make that happen.
Yeah. Will, can you talk a little bit about the research that you did, that you presented this morning? Because I thought it was really awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I couldn't be more excited to share this with the community. Everybody at WiCyS has been so receptive and welcoming, and I think is really interested in figuring out how to take some of the research and put it into action.
Yeah.
And really what we wanted to do with this research was understand what are some of the best practices that companies should be implementing internally to try and solve some of the talent challenges that they have in their cyber talent pipeline, right? We've been hearing for well over a decade that there's a talent shortage, and we have issues with our cyber talent pipeline resilience. Mm-hmm. And we haven't heard a whole lot about what companies can actually do to solve that. People might throw skills-based hiring out there as a solution, but yes, 10 different people what skills-based hiring is, you get 11 different answers. And so we wanted to try and demystify this and give employers first, concrete recommendations for what practices actually move the needle in trying to expand your cybersecurity talent pipeline. But we also want to go a step further than that and quantify why it mattered from a business perspective. Because if you actually want employers to adopt some of these practices, they're going to have to be able to turn it into dollars and cents to communicate the value to the disparate stakeholders that they have to satisfy internally. And so what we found was that many of the practices that are both good for individuals are also great for companies and their bottom lines. We're talking about things that are related to skills-based and talent-friendly practices, such as mentorships, such as providing personalized career pathways, such as using skills to inform your workforce planning, offering stretch assignments. These were all some of the practices we found that, on average, could help organizations save as much as $127,000 per cybersecurity worker on average over the course of their lifetime employment. So that is a huge amount of financial benefit to a company, but it's also great for the individuals as well because it helps them enter into and advance their careers within cybersecurity.
Yeah, so I think everybody who's been involved with WiCyS knows that the work you do is fantastic, but having quantification, actually having research to back that up and really explain the value that individual and employer receive is probably pretty rewarding for you, right?
It's
You've
really
been busting
rewarding.
your butt for years.
So. I know. I'm like, and here it is. Ta-da! Yes. So the leadership symposium where we released that, and the media embargo got lifted this morning. So what a timely time for us to be having this podcast. But to be able to share that information far and wide is really fun and important, and it's really adding a lot of value from the employer perspective. So yeah. It feels
amazing.
Very good.
So if you were going to go in and consult for an employer, and you were going to give them like the top 3 things that they should be doing, well, what would you advise them to start doing right now?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is don't assume that you have a hammer and then you're going to find nails everywhere. We find a lot of companies, they really think that because they heard about one practice or they heard about skills-based hiring, that if they implement that, then all will be great, right? Well, the reality is your organization is unique and you need to start by figuring out what are the talent challenges that you're facing. Do you have a retention issue? Do you have difficulty hiring people? Are you not bringing enough people into leadership positions from more diverse backgrounds? Whatever it may be, first figure out what is the business challenge you are trying to solve, and then work backwards from that. Figure out what are the types of practices that are going to be most effective. We find, for example, that if you're trying to expand your talent pipeline and bring more people in, that offering remote work and using more of a skills-based approach to hiring for people, that can help you do that. If you're trying to increase retention, offering mentorships and other personalized development opportunities, such as skills-based training pathways, those can be incredibly effective. And I would say if you're a company, just start small. A lot of these practices, they can be stacked on top of each other. You don't have to jump all the way to a big transformative skills transformation project. You could start by just giving more opportunities for people to have stretch assignments. Yeah. We actually found that was one of the most valuable practices, and that was actually useful for people to just build new skills. Yeah. And all you have to do is give people a little extra opportunity to try new things on the job, and then from there they can build new practices on top of that that can deliver even more value.
I think what you measure matters, right? Do you find that a lot of companies aren't measuring some of these things to begin with?
They're either not measuring it or they're not measuring it well. Okay. One of the things that we actually found in this research is that even though some companies were trying to implement these skills-based practices, the vast majority of them are actually still utilizing subjective assessments of the skills their people have. Yeah. About 2/3 of the companies that are trying to do skills-based assessments are still just relying upon managerial assessments with all their inherent biases that are just going to be a situation of garbage in, garbage out when it comes to the skills data. And so I think there's still a long way to go for organizations who have the best of intentions in using these skills-based practices to actually find more defensible means of capturing information about the skills of their workforce.
Yeah, I know personally speaking, as someone who doesn't look like a traditional hire, I've had, because I have crazy hair and I have tattoos and things like that, I definitely have had people make assumptions about what I do or don't do, or skills that I do or don't have in both directions. I've had somebody say to me, like, boy, you must really know what you're doing because you can't look like that and be in the position you're in unless you do. But also had people, I've been in a booth before a trade show helping set up and had someone assume that I was one of the people you pay to scan badges. So I'm a big believer that whatever you can do to anonymize the hiring process, and make it more of a skills-based process. Everybody has bias, unconscious bias, and there's not a lot that you can do to completely get rid of that other than doing a better job of kind of giving everybody a level playing field to start out with. So I'm a big fan of that. So Lynn, since we know now that WiCyS provides this great value to companies, beyond just sponsoring WiCyS, which everybody should be doing, what do you think, what else can employers and companies out there be doing to help WiCyS and further the mission of really providing some of these skills to women?
Yeah, and so in order of furthering our mission, but most importantly, furthering their workforce. I mean, retention is super critically important, and the data comes from the ability of these employers to be able to retain and provide career growth and advancement opportunities for those performers. And so really making sure that they're not only a sponsor of us, but also a strategic partner, and help deepen and develop that relationship, be a part of the conversation, because this industry is worth investing in, and people are the most valuable asset. And so the work that we do and the technical program that we put out and the leadership programming that we put out, it all helps us. This is all the wraparound services that lead to that ROI, how does it impact the bottom line? But really, that investment in the individual and cultivating that talent throughout their company, being a part of WiCyS on the strategic partner level, means you're investing in the industry and you're joining forces at a higher capacity and really making the progress forward. So we want to continue to see the impact we're making, the impact that we're making on the workforce and the lives that we're changing in the community because of it.
Yeah, you were talking about, getting rid of the more subjective assessments, one of those things being like manager and peer performance reviews and things like that. And I think, Lynn, that when you were presenting kind of some of the findings, one of your findings was that women hit this like glass ceiling in their careers, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Back in about 2022, 2023, we realized our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. But we quickly realized that we could continue recruiting all we want. But the retention is truly the foundation. You retain, you provide career growth and advancement pathways and opportunities. And then while you're doing that, you're building the pipeline. And so, in order to further that conversation, we knew that we were coming up against some roadblocks when we were meeting with our employer partners, or not employer partners, just employers in general. And so we realized that we needed some data behind it. We partnered with Elyria Research and we put together the State of Inclusion Benchmark Report. And that benchmark report had some really interesting findings that included that women in cybersecurity are at this glass ceiling at around 6 to 10 years within their career. And also included that a large barrier, a very high barrier, was a lack of career growth and advancement opportunities. And the reason why that really stuck out for Elyria is because of all the industries that they assess, they've never had the lack of career growth and advancement opportunities come out as high as it did for women in cybersecurity. So that was a major red flag that they were throwing down at that time. And then the third biggest finding is that, for the sake of this conversation, how it led us to continue to research this further, is that women in cybersecurity, they're more likely, 5 times more likely, to have the experiences of exclusion come from their direct managers. And so when we were shifting the language and actually when we were going out and presenting on these data and findings, when I was presenting at a very well-known conference, afterwards I was approached by an individual that was like, well, women in cybersecurity at a glass ceiling at around 6 to 10 years within their career. Perhaps it's a performance issue. They just don't have what it takes to advance in their career, and that's why everyone else is advancing but women in cybersecurity, which led us to partner with SkillRex and N2K to show not only are we performing with the technical capabilities, but outperforming our non-WiCyS members at a much higher rate. And SkillRex reported today that percentage is 14.5% higher capacity than non-WiCyS members. So we were proud of that. But when the language started coming around, skills-based advancement, we're like right on. We're way ahead of the game. We have the data to show we have the skills. We know this conversation. Skills is the ultimate equalizer. We could definitely make some really great advancement for the mid-career woman in cybersecurity. And it came about time and time again when I was having the conversations that it was very subjective, left to the discretion of the manager, which brings us back to the original findings of the report back in 2024, is that women are 5 times more likely to have experiences of exclusion. So when Will approached us about a research project, it was around that framework, but the question was very clear. We're like, what is the return on investment for mid-career women in cybersecurity, skills-based advancement for mid-career women in cybersecurity? And that's where we started the baseline for that. So what I love about this approach is that we let the data kind of drive the story to determine what do we need to question more and to define where do we need more data to help leverage the conversation even further. So we kind of piggyback on dovetail on each data point, each research that we provide, and do that. But what's also really cool is that WiCyS then uses that data and we make very data-informed decisions on what programs we're going to do next because of it.
Yeah. So Will, this kind of skills-based advancement, is that a big piece of removing some of that subjective kind of? So I have a theory on this, which is that I think the further you advance in your career, the more you kind of come into your own and you have opinions and a working style and you kind of develop a way to do things yourself, which I think can sometimes create some of those conflicts with a direct manager, or at least that's been my experience. So as I got more confident and more kind of grounded in how I work, how I do things, my managers had how they worked and how they did things. And I think the more mature you get, the more everybody kind of digs in and thinks that their way is the right way. So does creating a more skills-based, less subjective program, does that help combat some of that?
It absolutely can. I think, skills, as Lynn mentioned, can really be the great equalizer. And if you, as a company culture, are starting to adopt a skills-first mindset, then I think that helps to strip away some of the legacy biases that can creep into all of our thoughts, right? Where, like you said, everybody has their own way of doing things, and there are different kinds of biases that we're all going to be susceptible to in different ways, shapes, or forms. And if you can use skills to kind of cut through those as much as possible, then that's going to be a great equalizer. It's going to get us talking the same language, both internally as well as externally with other folks when we're looking at candidates or talking with training partners, whoever it may be. And so that can be that kind of Rosetta Stone to serve as that translation layer between different stakeholders. Now, the one thing, though, I will mention as well is that not only is the skills-based piece important and the career development piece important, one of the other things that I think was really interesting that kind of picks at some of the things you've been talking about here as well is that you also find the practices that support retention and bottom line ROI the most are also those that provide visibility and access to more people, such as mentorships or other opportunities to engage with people outside of your little sphere, especially those who are higher up in the organization. And so by gaining that visibility and that access combined with the skills-based career development opportunities, that's really, I think, the perfect combination of tools for organizations to both drive better talent outcomes and better business outcomes as a result, but also for individuals to really come into their own, advance within the field, and be able to communicate with a more diverse set of stakeholders while also advancing by virtue of having that access and visibility.
Awesome. Where can people go to find out more about the research that you did?
So they can either go to WiCyS's website, which I would encourage no matter what, and the research is there. We also have the research up on FourOne Insight's website, so either way you can download the report completely free, and you can read all about the talent practices that'll drive the most ROI in your business.
Awesome. And if people want to learn more about supporting and getting engaged with WiCyS, where should they go?
They should go to WiCyS.org.
Awesome. Lynn, Will, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome. I got a lot out of the research that you did, so thank you for supporting it and for continuing to look for ways for women to be able to grow in their careers. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be back with WiCyS 2026 live from the conference. Welcome back. We are live at WiCyS 2026. This is Jackie McGuire. I'm the host of Woman in the Middle, and joining me is Archana Ramamurthy. Archana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So why don't you tell everybody what you do?
So my name is Archana Ramamurthy. As she said, I work for Google, and I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for Cybersecurity and Privacy. So majority of my work is making sure that we safeguard Google and our users, billions of users around the world.
Awesome. That is not a small job. So we're at WiCyS 2026.
Yes.
We're getting near the end of day one. How has your conference experience been so far?
It's been fantastic. It's great to see the growth of the community.
Yeah.
It's great to see the number of women who actually in cybersecurity these days. I still remember the early days.
You're the only woman in the room.
Yeah, pretty depressing to now where you actually see a lot of people and folks that are very interested in a career in cybersecurity, want to advance where they want to be, want to have like more experiences. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I have found the same thing. I remember many days of being the only woman in the room, and now I go speak at colleges and high schools, and it's at least 50% women, and it's so encouraging just seeing, that the numbers are finally starting to even out a little.
What a difference it makes.
Yeah, feeling like you belong, right?
Yes, 100%.
How many WiCyS conferences have you been to?
Let me think. I think about 5.
Wow.
But I have a very interesting story of how I actually started working with WiCyS and with Dr. Amberine and with Lynn and others. My time actually goes back before Lynn. I think this was in 2017 or 2018. And I was at the Grace Hopper conference.
Oh, okay.
And I had an afternoon where I didn't have any sessions I wanted to go to. So I was walking around the career booth And they have this huge fair with a number of companies and universities and others putting stalls. There was one tiny little stall which said women in cybersecurity. And Dr. Amberine was standing like right in front of it, and she was like quiet and timid, and she was, handing out these little WiCyS badges. And I went and talked to her, and I got to know about what she wanted to do for the community. I heard about, her plans, and I could see it was still small, but the enthusiasm and the excitement was so much. To me, it made a huge difference. So I joined that day. I got an ally to join that day.
Yeah.
And there's been no looking back since then.
That's amazing. Yeah, she's a wonderful woman.
She is.
What do you feel like are some of the things that you've gotten from being part of WiCyS, other than realizing you're not the only woman in cybersecurity?
I think quite a bit. I think giving back is one of the things I've always wanted to do, and WiCyS lets me do that.
Yeah.
So I actually helped set up the mentor-mentee program, and we wanted it to be a very differentiated program from what everybody else in the industry talks about. So it's not just mapping a mentor to a mentee and saying, good luck, go with it. A lot of times mentorship fizzles because of the fact that you don't know what to do in these conversations.
Yeah.
Neither the mentor nor the mentee. So we actually put together a program that was a far more curriculum based, that helped the mentors and the mentees come together and actually have a good experience throughout. Pretty excited and proud of that. But apart from that, for me personally, I think it's the network of people that I connect with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's the leadership circle. I feel like I've grown with WiCyS.
Yeah.
And it gives me a lot of pride to see the women who've grown with WiCyS. And it's just, I think the community beyond your little world of your own company, I think goes a long way. Your tribe,
Today we learned a lot. I don't know if I think you were in the leadership symposium.
Yes.
And there was a ton of data presented about the benefits that WiCyS brings, not just, to us as women, feeling more community. And you were just talking about introducing structure to mentorship. And I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times employers facilitate mentorship and they just assume that more senior people will know what to do,
right,
and that junior people will benefit just from hanging out with more senior people. But without a real understanding of what to do, that can be problematic. And one of the things that they talked about in the leadership symposium earlier today is really the benefit that those things bring, not only to the mentees in terms of skilling up, but also to their job satisfaction. And have you seen that yourself as you've kind of built out more structure around that people are happier?
Yes, 100%. I think we've seen people stay through their entire mentorship experience, which wasn't the case before. We've also seen people truly benefit, the mentors, for example, in terms of even understanding how they should be better leaders.
Yeah.
Because a lot of mentorship translates into leadership at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think it goes both ways. The mentees and the mentors sort of understand that. And I think that leads the pathway to people being more open to going to sponsorship beyond mentorship. And I think that line is a huge benefit to a lot of companies. So I think all the work we do on a day-by-day basis can't just stay within the bounds of this conference or within this group of people. The more we're able to bring these principles back to our companies, more allies see it, more people see it, and hence there's more evidence of these things working, and it's very apparent for people in the organization as well.
Yeah, I often feel like I get more out of mentorship than the mentees do. It's when someone asks, like, why do you do this? Or how do you figure this out? And I start talking, like, these things come out of me that I don't even realize I knew, or didn't realize that I actually had a theory behind things, and I'm not just pinballing through the universe. I'm sure you've done quite a bit of mentoring in your career. Have you found that as well, that you kind
100%.
of grow to understand yourself more?
I feel like the energy of a lot of the mentees makes me feel energized, and there's so much that I learn from them. I feel like sometimes when you grow up in leadership positions, you don't really have the ability to just sit down and experience life as an engineer or experience life as a security expert. Right? And being able to actually get in the room with these people also lets me understand what people are going through on a day-by-day basis that I need to be aware of and be mindful of as a leader in the community. So absolutely, you're 100% right. I think it benefits both sides, and it grows both people in the conversation.
Yeah, so switching gears just a little bit, in your day job, when you're not mentoring, we're in kind of a really rapidly evolving environment.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that I've heard from people at WiCyS at the conference and also have been talking about a lot is if you were to talk to someone about kind of what should they be thinking about in security right now and how do you see the world of security evolving? We made it at least halfway into the interview without saying AI, but I'm going to say AI now. But how do you think about that, both in terms of how you manage teams, how you build products, and where you see the direction going, and kind of what keeps you grounded as the whole world is kind of churning around us?
Changing and churning. I said this in the leadership panel this afternoon, and I'll say it again, right? I think the world is at a pivotal changing point right now, and we in the security industry have seen these kind of changes every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
And every time these changes happen, sometimes security is looked at as a blocker versus being an enabler. And I think one of the mindset changes that we all need to have as an industry is, look, AI is here. It's not going away. There's obviously going to be an up and down curve, and it's going to plateau at some point in time in terms of how deterministic it gets and how much people actually trust it to put it in production systems. But for us, the job is to enable the business. And we do that in a way in which the business really understands what's going on and the security implications of the work that they're doing, and then figure out a way to sort of find the middle ground and the balance to both let the innovation happen and at the same time change how we're doing things and innovate ourselves. Because AI doesn't just disrupt other industries, it's disrupting and actively disrupting security. And we know the adversaries have AI in their hands. They have no ethics, no morals, right? They have all the money, and they're going to use it however they see fit in order to come and attack the world.
Yeah, and sometimes they do a better job of working together than security teams do. And I think that's one of the things that's going to have to very rapidly change. I do agree. I think get to yes is security teams can't say no anymore. It has to be like, this is not the most secure way to do this, but let's get to yes. Let's get to yes, you can do what you want to do. We're just going to help you do it in the safest way possible.
And bring us along. Don't come to us as an after fact. Bring us along. We're not going to stop you. We're going to see what you do so that we can rapidly evolve, prototype, and respond to how things are going to evolve. And I think from a leadership level and from a people perspective, this is the chance and the time for leaders to inspire. It's the chance and the time for leaders to instill calmness, patience, and to tell their teams, you know what, we're all in this together. Things are rapidly changing, but I'm here for you. We're going to work on this together. Because sometimes teams just want to hear that. People just want to hear that. Because when there's so much uncertainty, you want a leader that you can look at and be like, okay, I know they got it.
Yeah, admitting that things are crazy, but also that, don't worry, we can stick together through this. I think that's great. So if you were talking to a mentee that's just getting into security now and maybe is at their first WiCyS or just starting, just finishing their security program, what is your biggest piece of advice that you give people in terms of how to approach the industry right now?
So from a security standpoint, we're all at a level equal playing field at the moment because we're all figuring out AI. We're all figuring out what this next evolution of security is going to be. We know the security paradigm of the past isn't going to work now, which means it actually gives new grads a great advantage. They're coming in with the AI skills because that's what kids do. They're really, really up to date in technology. And when they come in, they're able to use AI to their advantage to actually work with the security industry to protect and safeguard our most valuable assets. So for me, I would say embrace AI. Make sure that when you're coming in, you come with a very open mindset, which is a very easy thing at that stage in their career, and embedding themselves in places in security where there's the most need in order to make drastic change or impact within society.
It's a great time to raise your hand.
Yes.
It's I think to your point, everybody's figuring it out. You're not everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And so I'm sure you didn't get where you are in your career by being timid, and same thing. So, raise your hand, be willing to take chances, be willing to tackle tough problems, right?
Yeah. 100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure you'll be at the conference the rest of the days, so we'll see you. And I really appreciate it. The insights have been amazing.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. Stay tuned. We'll be back live from WiCyS 2026. Hello and welcome to WiCyS 2026. This is Jackie McGuire. I'm your host for Woman in the Middle, and I'm here with Ashley Smick. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, so I know that you have been a longtime supporter of WiCyS. We were talking before this, and you told me you've been to many WiCyS conferences. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of how you ended up at WiCyS?
Absolutely. So I'm a principal technical program manager at AWS. I've actually been there 11 years.
Wow.
I know.
That's a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I just celebrated my 11-year anniversary on March 2nd. So insane. Time flies. But I actually got involved with WiCyS back in 2019. At the time, I was building out our Women in Professional Services affinity group, basically. And we knew, and it was evident within our teams, that we just had a shortage of women in our security team. You know, I was inspired by going to the first WiCyS conference. We really went there with the intent of recruiting. Yeah. So it was really a big focus on having a booth there. Once I was there and I met all these amazing, talented women, and I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. Not only is it like-minded individuals, but it's also, the stories were so inspiring. And the content was amazing.
Yeah.
And I just met so many great people and really established a sense of community there. And so much, in fact, I came back from that conference and I said, we need to be a strategic partner for WiCyS. Yeah. So I spearheaded that effort. The Amazon thing is to write a document, right? So of course I wrote a document about the benefits, what WiCyS was, the benefits that we could experience. And then, of course, the financial ask. But I really do think the benefits outweigh the cost, hands down. I obtained leadership support, and we have been a Tier 1 strategic partner, I think, since 2020.
That's amazing. Yeah, you and I were just at the leadership symposium where they were actually talking about the quantified financial benefits of WiCyS, of women being involved in this program. And I don't think you can overstate that. It's really, I've also found the same thing. You know, I've met so many people who are now really good friends through WiCyS and just kind of feeling less alone. I think the higher you get in your technical career, unfortunately, the more you end up in these rooms full of very, very talented people, but not a lot of women represented. So it's great to have a place like this.
I mean, 11 years ago at Amazon, I would be sitting in a meeting and I would be the only female at the table. I think it has definitely changed and evolving, but I still think there's more work to be done. I really appreciated the leadership symposium around the data and the facts around skill growth, leading with empathy as a manager and a leader. I don't think that's ever going to go away, especially with AI. I actually gave a talk at WiCyS last year around leading with empathy in the age of AI, right? That is just an important interpersonal skill that's never going to go away.
Yeah.
But a lot of interesting points for sure. And I'm really excited to take that research back to my leadership, again, to just double down on what else we could be doing as an organization.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI. My background's actually data science and AI, and one of the things I always try to emphasize with companies I work with is, diversity is not just, a nice thing to be able to put on your web page. It's not, but it's an absolute imperative when it comes to AI, because I think to a large extent, technology is usually reflective of the people who build it, and it serves the people who build it. So if you want technology that serves a diverse population, that understands a diverse population, you really need a diverse population building and programming that technology. And to your point with empathy, I think, not to stereotype, but women often bring those soft skills. And it's a lot of my non-security skills that I brought into security that have proven to be the most beneficial in my career. Have you found that to be true as well?
Absolutely. I just think about my career path at, whether it was at KPMG, which is where I was prior to AWS, but at Amazon, it's not only building my technical skills, but it's also, to your point, those interpersonal skills, building relationships. I keep coming back to leading with empathy, but it had made me successful, I think, in my career growth, as well as when I was in a managerial role. So I'm back to being an individual contributor right now, but definitely switch on and off between being an IC and a people manager. But it means a lot when I have people that used to work for me and come up and be like, are you building a team again? Like, can we come work together again? Like that means so much to me.
That's the highest compliment as a people manager.
Really
people really want to work for you again. Yeah. So I like to ask people this question. So what do you think has been the most surprising thing as you've gone through your security journey that you've learned, kind of what you may have expected coming into cybersecurity and what you know now that you kind of wish you had known when you entered the field?
I kind of entered the field by accident.
Same. I did a data science boot camp and then got recruited to a SIM, and I didn't know what a SIM was.
That is amazing. I was just constantly trying to reinvent myself. And at KPMG, I went from doing like IT attestations and IT audits to, I have an accounting background. This was not like
my degree's in economics and finance. So same, yeah. I spent 15 years in like investments in Wall Street.
That's amazing, right? Yeah. Like this career journey, I think looking back, the career journey is not just vertical. You really need to take those stretch assignments, get outside of your comfort zone. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I fell in love with security. And even just transitioning from KPMG into AWS, I never saw that coming either. I do think literally just cherry-picked companies I might want to work at. And one thing led to another. Next thing I know, I was working in information security at Amazon.com. And 11 years ago, I was like, this is amazing. And picked up and moved to Seattle. And I do think the security is a constantly evolving industry, and especially with AI. I do think with AI is like the biggest technology shift that we'll see in our lifetime, honestly. So I never saw that coming, I'll be honest. So I was like, oh my gosh. But it's such an intersection between security and AI. And I do think just continuing to build on skills and staying up to date with what's going on, not only with industries within the US, but globally, I think is also a really important aspect.
Yeah. So I imagine you do a lot of mentoring because you've been around, you're an OG now. So talking about AI, I think one of the questions I get a lot is, if I'm new in my career, what should I be doing now that there are a lot of very large claims out there about the things AI is going to be able to do? And, a lot of people entering technical fields are kind of nervous about what they should be focused on. So I'd like to hear what you tell people when they tell you they're afraid that, whatever they learn, AI is going to be able to do.
I think there's still going to be, that human element, right? Especially in security. And I said this from the minute, like we started, at first it was AI/ML, right? So when that first kind of became on the scene, like my advice to any of my mentees was like, get on board because you're going to get left behind if you don't. And again, go back to skill building. So like at AWS, when we first started doing this within our org, I actually built out our like a training program. Like I worked identifying the right courses and like, hey, like these are different paths to take. And we had a goal of 100% like completion rate for everyone taking this. And from a mentee perspective, I said the same thing. Like just start experimenting, start learning, but really don't get left behind because this is a huge technology shift.
Yeah. I think continuing to bring that kind of intellectual curiosity with you and the desire to never take anything at face value. And I've always wanted to know how stuff works. When I was a kid, I would take stuff apart and get in trouble for that and, constantly asking questions. But I think, now that I'm doing that for a living, you're just talking about security is always changing. That is the part that I find really, really exciting. I was interviewing for a job a while back, and they asked me in the interview, they said, well, you've done some of these things before. Don't you think you're going to get bored in this role? And I said, honestly, I don't know how anybody gets bored in security because it's always changing. And One of the things I love about security is when you make friends, it's like we're all mischievous kids. And so when I think about AI, I'm like, yes, it will be able to do some things, but on the other side, your adversaries are always going to be mischievous kids. And the only way to stop a mischievous kid is to have a mischievous kid doing good things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think if you think you're going to be successful in security by learning how to do a job and then doing it for 20 years, that's just not how it works. And it never stops changing. It never stops evolving. And that's really one of the blessings in security, I think, is that there's always more to learn.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, a career in security, in my opinion, is just not a straight line. And there's so many different avenues and to take your career to. It's still such a broad field.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I just keep coming back, and I know we just finished that session, but like the skills gaps and how do we close those gaps, and being self-reflective, I think, is also really important. Of like, and being curious, to your point, like, what do I want to learn, right? Or how can I improve?
Yeah, I think security is unique too, in that it's one of the areas that, because you can use something like AWS to set up sandboxes, to set up things to do. I always tell women, don't say, I want to get into threat intelligence. Don't say, I want to get into data science. Do it on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to be employed in a job to do that thing.
No.
Like, go out and do it. And then you don't have to say, I'm trying to get into. You can say, I do threat intelligence, and here are some projects I've built, and here are some things I've done. And, I've been very fortunate in that most of my last handful of full-time jobs have found me, even my part-time jobs. And a lot of it is because I just build stuff and put it out there. And I also raise my hand a lot. And that's something that I think that more women need to do, is like, even if you don't think you have 100% of what it takes to do a project, raise your hand and figure it out.
Exactly. And that goes back to, the stretch assignments. It also, like, at AWS, we also offer, we have skill centers where you can actually just walk in and start experimenting with our AWS. It's actually a really great opportunity. And then as well as our different certifications and skill builder to really start learning different avenues within AWS, I think is just huge.
Any closing thoughts? Anything you're really hoping to get out of WiCyS in the conference this year?
I've been a long time advocate for WiCyS. I think this community and this organization are so important and so critical. Every organization should have representation here, honestly. And it's such an awesome opportunity to have that the student interaction as well. And it's just a great way to continue to shape the future.
Yeah, agreed. I know some organizations are small and it's not always easy to build out that representation. So that, I think, makes it even more important to allow the women in your organization to come to WiCyS, find a place that they belong, find other people they can talk to.
Absolutely. I'm super excited for some Capture the Flags this week. And our team is putting on an agentic AI workshop later today. Really excited. A lot of great speakers. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned. We'll be back live from WiCyS 2026.